We normally use the word hell for the place of Satan and his demons. But do you know that there are different sections in hell? If so, how many? Answer to this coming up. Hello, Pastor Georgy here from Pointer to Eternity, and welcome back to another Q&A. When we talk about the place where bad or evil people go after they die, the common word we use is hell. By the way, on our channel there are other videos titled Is Hell a Real Place? What is hell like? Where do people go after they die? So check out those videos. The playlist will be given down below. And while you are there, consider subscribing and also turning on that bell notification so that you'll be alerted whenever Q&As, Bible studies, strategic trends updates are posted. So we use the word hell to describe the place of the devil, demons, and all damned human beings. But the Bible is more specific in its description of hell than most people think. As per the Bible, hell is divided into 4 parts. In the Old Testament itself, we get the first hint of this. For a fire is kindled in my anger and shall burn to the lowest hell. It shall consume the earth with her increase and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. See, the word for hell there is Sheol. And in the Old Testament, the word Sheol is generally used for the place of the departed dead. It merely means the grave. But in some other places, it refers to the realm of the departed spirits. As divine revelation is progressive in the Bible, the New Testament gives us more specifics regarding this. The New Testament reveals that hell is a literal place divided into at least 4 parts. How do we know that? There are 4 different words in the Greek New Testament to describe those parts. We'll look at those. The first is the abyss or bottomless pit. One part of hell is called as the abyss, bottomless pit, or the shaft of the abyss. The word abyssos is seen 9 times in the Greek New Testament. Luke chapter 8 verse 31, Romans 10 verse 7, Revelation chapter 9 verses 1, 2, 11, chapter 11 verse 7, chapter 17 verse 8, chapter 20 verses 1 and verse 3. So from its description in the Bible, the abyss is a place where a specific group of demons is presently kept, who will be released for a period of 5 months during the tribulation to trouble the lost, according to Revelation chapter 9 verses 1 through 5. And that's also the place where Satan will be temporarily bound for 1,000 years during the millennium period, according to Revelation chapter 20 verses 1 to 3. Let's also look at another event. When Jesus was at Gerasenes, a demon-possessed man approached him. He was possessed by a legion of demons. And the demons inside the man quickly recognized the presence of Jesus, the Son of God. When he saw Jesus, he cried out, fell down before him, and with a loud voice said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." So it's interesting that even the demons recognized who Jesus was. Jesus as the Son of God. Demons can recognize. They did not worship Jesus, but they recognized. And it's ironic that sinful human beings are not able to see Jesus as the Son of God because they do not want. Many of the sinful human beings, they do not want to accept Jesus as their Lord. That's why they are unable to see Jesus as the Son of God. Anyway, coming back, when it was clear that Jesus was going to cast those demons out, they begged him not to command them to return to the abyss, but rather to permit them to enter into a herd of swine. And they begged him that he would not command them to go out into the abyss. Now a herd of many swine was feeding there on the mountain. So they begged him that he would permit them to enter them. and he permitted them. Looking at Matthew chapter 8 verse 29 also, this passage confirms that abyss is a temporary place of confinement, a holding place for some demons who go a little far in their rebellion against God. The scope and extent of their wickedness are kept in check because they know that if they go too far, they will be cast into the abyss. And now the second section, Tartarus. The word Tartarus is seen only once in the New Testament. For if God did not spare the angels who sinned, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved for judgment. The word for hell there is Tartarus. In Greek mythology, Tartarus was the lowest level of the underworld, and it was reserved for the most evil criminals. What Peter is saying here is that Tartarus is a permanent place of imprisonment for a group of angels who sinned in the days of Noah. Note that Peter mentions in verse 4 these sinning angels. In verse 5, the flood of Noah, seen in Genesis chapter 6 through 8. And in verses 6 through 8, judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah, seen in the days of Lot. So a chronological sequence of events in Genesis is alluded to by Peter. So therefore, these angels would have sinned before the flood of Noah. The only passage that can fit this horrible sin is Genesis chapter 6 verses 1 through 4. And we see the phrase, the sons of God. Of course, that phrase is debated. But I will give 5 reasons on why the sons of God in Genesis chapter 6 verses 1 through 4 are fallen angels who came down to contaminate the human race to prevent the coming of a fully human Messiah. The first reason, the term sons of God or Bene Elohim is used regularly to refer to angels, according to Job chapter 1 verse 6, 2 verse 1, 38 verse 7. And the second reason, the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament, translates the expression Bene Elohim in Genesis 6 as angels of God. The third view, this view is supported by Jude chapter 1 verse 6 and 7, which parallels 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 4. And the angels who did not keep their proper domain but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day, as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities around them in a similar manner to these, having given themselves over to sexual immorality and gone after strange flesh, are set forth as an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. See, those angels committed serious immorality in going after strange flesh, just like the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. So some sexual sin by those angels is intended there. And some may oppose what I shared just now by saying that angels are sexless beings, or that it is impossible to mix angels and humans. And that's where the fourth reason comes. Some may point to Matthew chapter 22 verse 30, where it says that in heaven people will be like angels of God and that there will not be any marriage. But note that this verse, Matthew chapter 22 verse 30, does not say that people in heaven will lose their quality of male and female gender. And also, Matthew chapter 22 verse 30 points to unfallen or godly angels in heaven. This verse does not say that fallen angels or demons are incapable of that. And also remember that in scripture, whenever angels materialized, they carried out the functions of normal human beings. For example, they ate, they drank, they walked, they talked, etc. And the last reason, looking back in history, this is the most accepted view. Sons of God as the angels of God. The famous Jewish historian Flavius Josephus and other Jewish writers and teachers held this position. The earliest Christian writers who held to this view included Justin Martyr, Clement of Alexandria, Origen, Irenaeus, Cyprian, Tertullian, Ambrose, Methodius, etc. All of them ascribed to this view. And though not authoritative, many pseudepigraphical works like First Enoch, Jubilees, and the Apocalypse of Baruch all support this view. So for all these reasons, we see that Tartarus is a special section in hell where these specific very evil angels or demons are being kept until the great white throne judgment day, according to Revelation chapter 20 verses 11 through 15. And while the fallen angels in abyss are in temporary imprisonment, since they will be released for some time during the tribulation period, Tartarus is a place of permanent imprisonment until the great white throne judgment. The angels who committed the terrible sin in Genesis chapter 6 verses 1 through 4 are permanently kept there until they are thrown into the lake of fire. They are delivered into chains of darkness to be reserved for judgment. And now the third section in hell, Hades. The Greek word Hades is seen 11 times in the New Testament. Matthew chapter 11 verse 23, chapter 16 verse 18, Luke chapter 10 verse 15, chapter 16 verse 23, Acts chapter 2 verses 27 and 31, 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verse 55, Revelation chapter 1 verse 18, chapter 6 verse 8, chapter 20 verses 13 and 14. Now, Hades may mean just the grave. It's similar to that Old Testament word Sheol. And in the New Testament, Hades is a place where the souls of lost and unsaved people are now kept as they await the final day of judgment. Hades is like the local jail where prisoners await their trial date and final sentence. And then they will be transferred to the maximum security prison. And now the fourth section in hell, Gehenna. This is the word most commonly used in the New Testament. It's found 12 times in the New Testament. Matthew chapter 5 verse 22, verses 29 and 30, Matthew chapter 10 verses 28, chapter 18 verse 9, chapter 23 verses 15 and 33, Mark chapter 9 verses 43, 45, 47, Luke chapter 12 verse 5, and James chapter 3 verse 6. The word Gehenna comes from the valley of Hinnom, which was just west of the city of Jerusalem. In the days of King Ahaz, this valley was used as a place to offer child sacrifices to the pagan god Molech, according to 2 Kings chapter 16 verses 2 and 3. And later during the reign of King Josiah, since he wanted to purge Israel of idolatry, he made that valley the dump yard of the city. It was filled with refuse, worms, maggots, and never-ending fires. And this is the imagery when Jesus used that word. Gehenna is the real hell. If Hades was the local jail, Gehenna is the maximum security prison. And Gehenna is the final place of torment for Satan, fallen angels and demons, and unbelieving and unsaved humans of all ages, according to Revelation chapter 20 verse 10 and verses 14 through 15. Gehenna is also referred to as the lake of fire and brimstone, according to Revelation 20 verse 10, the lake of fire verse 14, and the second death verses 6 and 14. It's called second death because it's a place of final and eternal separation from God. And Gehenna is the place where those in the abyss, Tartarus, and Hades will ultimately be thrown. So to sum up, the place we refer to as hell has 4 sections. And to clearly distinguish between them, it's good to say abyss hell, Tartarus hell, Hades hell, Gehenna hell. The abyss hell is the place of temporary imprisonment of some demons. Tartarus hell is the place of permanent imprisonment of some demons until the great white throne judgment. And Hades hell, place of imprisonment of lost and unsaved people from the time of death until the great white throne judgment. And the last one, Gehenna hell, the place of eternal judgment for Satan, demons, and all lost and unsaved people. Or Gehenna hell is the place of final eternal separation from God. So next time, when you come across these passages in scripture, have this understanding in mind. Hope this was a blessing to you. And if you found this video beneficial, do share this with others also. God bless you. And by the way, if you are blessed by this message, be sure to hit that like button. And also, if you are not yet subscribed, kindly subscribe by pressing that subscribe button and also pressing that bell notification so that you would continue to receive blessed messages and updates like this on this same channel.